Rob Williams is the national sports editor of the Daily Hive and its Offside Sports vertical. Rob, the hockey guy on Twitter. And he joins us Thursdays. How are you?
Great. I'm catching my breath after the last 10 days or whatever it was in the NHL. I think I listed it all out on Twitter the other day. In 9 days, we went from they handed out the Stanley Cup, they gave out the NHL awards. We had 2 days of drafts. They started free agency and basically signed everyone immediately because everyone in the league is tampering, obviously.
And they want to start their summer sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that too. They revealed the schedule. What else have I missed? Reinstated all the Blackhawks,
yes,
sexual assault issues there.
Stanley Cup parades. There was the Stanley Cup parade on the beach in Lauderdale.
I was laughing like 5 minutes before free agency open. I'm in in the war room here, ready to like cover all the signings and everything. And they announce these are the 32 home openers for the season. And I was like, there's no time. Nobody cares. This is not going to be something
at this point, no time for your own material.
And speaking of burying your own material, they revealed all of the first players for the Four Nations tournament on draft day.
It would have been a very easy August story for them.
July 15th
in the headlines.
Yeah. And I don't think people care about this tournament yet. So they got some work to do on this. Like I think it's great. Like best on best hockey. We haven't seen it in a long time, but yeah, like they've got some work to do here. So
it's funny because I think it was Jay Fresh, a link the other day, like, pick your team Canada. And so I clicked it and I started going through, and I think I got to 7 forwards. You need 14. And I was like, you know what? No, I don't care enough to go through this exercise. If it was the Olympics, I would have cared enough to go through the exercise.
Yeah. But at the same time, like I was looking at it the other day, our clicks are higher for the last 2 weeks than they were during the playoffs. like people are consuming all this material.
Oh, absolutely. But I think, from a Canucks fan perspective, it's been all about free agency, right? Like the draft was kind of like, we kind of just brushed over the draft. Like, thank God the Canucks didn't have a first round pick. I really wouldn't have had a weekend, right? Like, but yeah, like, I mean, that was all in one long weekend, right? The draft and free agency. And then we came back on Tuesday and went, whoa, what happened? So, but yeah, I think for Canucks fans, it was all about free agency. It was all about what they were going to do, who was available, who were they going to bring back, and yeah, I don't know your guys' thoughts on how it all went. I think it went like okay. It was like they didn't. I was wondering if they were going to land Gensel like everyone else, and once Gensel and Tanev, I think, were off the board going into it, starting to see like the first contracts trickle through, I was getting pretty nervous that they were going to do something really stupid. I don't think they did something really stupid. This, DeBrusk contract length makes me a little nervous. I don't know if they did enough, but I think it was fine.
They were busy enough. They kept people's attention, and they've addressed some needs. What did you hear back from your readers? Do you think people generally are okay with what happened?
I think so. Yeah, I think Canucks fans are. I think I think the question is on defense, of course, and I think there's a lot of Zadorov fans that were upset that he left, and so maybe saw his deal in Boston and thought, well, why couldn't the Canucks do that? So I think there is an element of that. For me, I think I really like the Danton Heinen addition. I think they got really good value on that contract, and Patrick Allvin and Heinen himself have effectively admitted that he took less money to come to Vancouver. So you get a bit of a hometown discount there for the Langley product. Kiefer Sherwood, I think the more I hear from him and read up on him and look at what he's done, a short career, even though he's in his late 20s, that sounds like a Rick Tocchet kind of guy if I ever heard one. I mean, listening to his interview, he was like, he more than most players, I think, really knows what he is, right? Like he was talking about identity and like just how he's going to fit in and what he does, to make his teammates better. I really like that. I like a player that there's no question that they know what they're good at and how they can affect a hockey game. DeBrusk, I'm not sure of. I mean, I think we've heard for the past few years the trade rumors, the benchings in Boston, so it was sort of an up and down time with the Bruins. So I'm not entirely sure on that one. And then you commit 7 years. But I think you had to get someone. I don't think you could have gone through free agency and just went, okay, maybe Dakota Joshua and Connor Garland are your second line wingers now. I don't think you could do that. So I think you had to find someone. At least the AAV is not bad, but the term is long. So I think that's the concern right there.
Ask you the poll question: what should they do on defense here? Sign a puck mover, make a trade, do nothing. What do you think?
Yeah, or Noah Strang wrote a piece for us on Daily Hive yesterday. 7 puck moving defensemen they could still sign in free agency. I'm not sure. Like, yeah, they need a puck moving defenseman, but like, I don't know that I don't know that they need a third pair puck mover. Like, I think they need a top 4 guy, right? Like, they need someone that can play bigger minutes. If you look at I was concerned about the Canucks going into last season with their defense. And I think what they did was they effectively had that super top pair that plays 24 minutes a night. And then they had 2 good third pairs, right? And I think going to this season, you could see them doing the same thing, but they don't have 2 good third pairs. They've got 1 good third pair. If you pair Myers and Soucy together, I think as a third pair, that's a very good third pair. Is it a second pair though? Because now when you've got, their third pair now, I guess, is Forbert and Desharnais. I don't know. I think that's more of a like middle of the road, low end third pair, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's where you're at right now, where last year they could play Hughes and Hronek 24 minutes and everyone else kind of played 17, 18 minutes. Now, if you've got Desharnais and Forbert on that third pair, like how many minutes can you play them? Are they going to, if you look at what they have played in recent years, like that's a touch high for them. So now are you starting to ask Myers and Soucy to start playing
20,
like 20 minutes to 21 minutes? Like that's where you really get into trouble. So I think you either have to try to recreate what you had last year. I think, this is not a popular opinion in Vancouver. I think they were too quick to punt out Ian Cole. I think Ian Cole would make me a lot more comfortable on this defense if you had Cole rather than Forbert in there. There is still time though. You can still upgrade. I'm not saying like Cole was like the ideal fit, but I think he's a guy that has played top 4 minutes for many years, and if he can hang on for 1 more year, I know he had a bad series against Edmonton, but I'm looking at the totality of his season. I thought he had a fine season for the Canucks and was a big reason for their turnaround on the back end.
Yeah, it's about having options too. You're probably not going to get a $5 million puck moving defenseman. You just don't have the cap space, and I don't think they've got the parts to move out to create cap space. But if you've got a quiver of different arrows back in the 5th, 6th position, maybe that's the safer way to go if you're the Canucks.
Yeah, and you were asking earlier about like what our readers are saying, and I think a big thing with Canucks fans right now is there's a lot of trust with this coaching staff, and I think there's a lot of like, okay, well, and also with this management group. And I think there's
management too, yeah.
And I think there's a lot of the sense of, okay, management has identified these guys, and the coaching staff can fix them, and they can turn these guys into something else. I mean, great if that is the case, but let's see it, right? I think that, I'm not quite convinced on that with their defense group. I do think Forbert, if you look at Forbert, I think that was a good addition, and I think that it's a low cost acquisition. And this is a guy that had some injury troubles last year. So maybe you get him when his price is down a little bit, and he can maybe, bounce back to what he was previously. And maybe he was playing a smaller role in Boston because they had a deep defense. So I think that's entirely possible. But yeah, I'm not sold on this defense yet. I think they do need to, look to make some, to make some kind of acquisition. I think look at what they did last season with Zadorov. They didn't pay through the nose to get Zadorov. Zadorov was playing third line minutes or third pair minutes in Calgary, and you bring him in and he ends up being, a pretty big part of your blue line, especially in the playoffs.
All right. In conclusion here, Rob, not to go all basketball Phil on you and influence or steer your editorial judgment or coverage at the Daily Hive or Offside, but are you dispatching young Noah to Seattle this weekend for the annual Canadian Blue Jays invasion?
We are not dispatching him to Seattle this weekend. I'm sorry.
Think of the clicks. Think of the color. Think of the video, the photos, the everything at your disposal in Soto when it turns Canadian July 5th to July 7th, and we all enjoy a weekend at Rogers Center West.
I was there last year. It was a great time. It's funny though. I just about forgot that it was this weekend. The Jays have just been so brutal this year that I think I wonder. I mean, I think there'll still be a buzz, of course, but it's just sort of it's been a weird year for the Jays. They kind of just
it's been a dreadful year.
Off, yeah,
it's been a dreadful year.
They've fallen right off the map.
So far, it's a really good year for the M's. I mean, this is a magic trick, for heaven's sakes, to be that bad at hitting 1 through 9 and to be in first place. I mean, we could go a long, long time. This is the worst hitting Mariners club in the history of the franchise, and they're in first place with cushion.
Guys, I've got my eyes are set on the Copa America right now. I haven't got time for the.
Oh,
that's where I'm going next here. I want to see Canada get into the semifinals of the Copa.
Well, it's a marvelous sports weekend any way you slice it. Thank you for the time, Rob Williams. You have a good week, and we'll catch up next Thursday.
Sounds great.
Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.